Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today we're starting something a little interesting. See, I recently acquired the Irish Trilogy collection from Cartoon Saloon. It's a trio of very interesting movies based on Celtic mythology, all animated, 3 of them, The Book of Kells, Song in the Sea, and Wolfwalkers. And I really wanted to review Wolfwalkers. Today I thought I was going to be reviewing that, but right I was just going to put the disc, and I was like, wait a minute, why don't I review all 3 of these over the course of like a few weeks, and get to enjoy all of them? So I decided to put in the earliest one, Secret of Kells, and that's what we're reviewing today. So for those of you who don't know, Cartoon Saloon is this animation studio who does just amazing work. Like, really good work. If you haven't heard of them, go look them up, watch all their stuff. I still need to watch Breadwinners and Song of the Sea, but I got introduced to them with their film Wolfwalkers in 2020. I saw an ad for it on YouTube and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks really good. I've never even heard of them before. I had heard of the Song of the Sea. I didn't know it was by them, and I also heard of Breadwinners. I hadn't seen Breadwinners yet. I still haven't. I really need to watch that, but, you know. So I went and saw that on Apple TV. It's the only reason I even bother with a free trial for that service. And I was just blown away. Wolfwalkers is amazing. We'll get to that one eventually. I will be reviewing it because I wasn't around I wasn't doing this in 2020, so I didn't really get to review it. It got nominated for an Oscar, though. Lost to Soul, which is one of the Pixar movies I just wasn't as into as some of the other ones. But, you know, that's just me. I think Wolfwalker should have won. I think the Pixar bias is strong with Hollywood. I mean, it's less the bias and more the Oscars can't be bothered to care about any movie that's not a Pixar movie because they barely care about animation to begin with. But anyway, me and my salt aside, let's talk about The Secret of Kells. This is actually Cartoon Saloon's first film, and you can actually really tell that. Not an insult or anything, this is just one of those developing style kind of films. So the way Cartoon Saloon does it is they have this very distinctive 2D animation style that makes the whole thing look like it's a hand-drawn storybook. It's a really pretty style, but in this movie I can really tell, yeah, it's a little rougher on the edges. They hadn't completely learned how to mesh their moving character models with like the painted backdrops. It looks gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Let me just give this preface. Let me just preface everything up front. Everything Cartoon Saloon does is gorgeous. All of their movies are some of the most amazingly beautiful pieces of animation you will ever see. The Secret of Kells is just the one I'd probably, based on everything I've seen, the trailers for Breadwinner and Song of the Sea, what I've seen of the 4 times I rewatched Wolfwalkers, and this time, yes, it's probably their worst movie animation speed, but their worst is still Pixar and Disney levels, so you know. When your worst is an A, can you really complain you didn't get that A+? It's a really pretty style. It's just having watched Wolfwalkers, I can see the points where they have really grown into it over the years. Actually, that's going to be really interesting is seeing how, watching Song of the Sea and then Wolfwalkers after this, and seeing how they grow into their style. It's just minor things like shading, the characters feeling like they're kind of floating on the backdrops a little bit, whereas in later films, they get a lot more solid with the style. It all looks gorgeous, though. The Celtic influence is very much there. So, this movie is set in the 9th century in Ireland. And, the main character, Brendan, is the youngest of a group of monks at the Abbey of Kells. And his uncle is terrified of the growing Viking raids that have been plaguing their fellow monasteries. So he has been ordering everyone to build a massive wall to help keep them out. Brendan's basically been there since he was young. And he's never been outside the walls. Basically been helping build them ever since he was a child. His uncle is very much of the, don't go outside, it's dangerous. And this is cartoon saloons, as you will come to see, very signature style of embrace what makes life good for you. He meets a shape-shifting young girl out in the... So a new monk comes to town. He's this famous monk who's writing this beautiful book called the Book of Iona, which is later the Book of Kells, an actual historical book, apparently a beautiful illustrated gospel and created by a group of monks in the monastery of Kells. And they basically this is basically a fictionalized retelling of the book's origin, mythologized almost. Very interesting, very beautiful. I'm not sure, because I haven't gone over just how much of this is based in actual myth. I know that the demon they mention is part of it, Crom Cruach, but they take a lot of liberal interpretation with the myths themselves and the Greek people in them. But I love this. This is gorgeous. So it starts out, they're living a life, and the father wants him to stay away from the new monk, because he had to flee there after the other abbey, the monastery, was destroyed because it was on an island, and they even often mention, Uncle says that islands are very, hard to defend. And because it's this, very isolationist, we need to keep inside our walls and stay safe and protect ourselves versus the mystery and wonder of the forest and the world. The book representing basically a chance to take risks and preserve the world, to write down things for future knowledge, for future generations, to give them an inspiration, a beacon of light, to help guide and inspire future creative works. That's how the old bookkeeper sees the book. Obviously he goes off in the forest, he meets this young, fairy, Aisling, and, she helps him find some berries, and the two start going on adventures. Eventually he has to complete this task in order to help complete the book, and then there's other stuff that goes on after that. It's a very interesting piece. I won't say it's their best work, but again, even their worst work is still leagues above everyone else. And I really just like it almost like a mood piece. It's a very short movie. The film is only 75 minutes long. But it just captivates you the whole way through with the beautiful forest backdrops. And there's this one scene in particular with the demon. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but until I get to the spoiler section, but it's really cool and inventive the way he fights this massive demon. And the final shot with it is very beautiful. I really liked the ending, actually. A lot more than I thought I was going to while watching it, believe it or not. But yeah, all in all, this is a really solid piece. It combines breathtaking animation with great voice acting and effects to, a very moving and almost somber kind of story. It has a hopeful ending, but gets pretty dark by animation standards. Very nice, love it all. Cartoon Saloon is great. What else can I say? So, we're moving into spoiler territories. If you don't want any spoilers, it's alright. It's not really there aren't a big spoilers. I will say, I will be describing some of the cooler sequences. So if you're, interested in that, go ahead and check it out. So yeah. Alright, on to spoiler section. So, this is interesting. Let's start with the, demon. Let's start with the fairy Ainsley. So, Aisling, is the last of her kind, a fairy who saves Brendan from a pack of wolves in the forest and helps him get the berries they need to make the ink so he can help the old man work on the book. And it's all very, Wolfwalker-ish, cute, adorable. Two kids playing around the woods, one of them having been confined in walls their whole life, and the other a bit more wild, showing him how to live a bit. And after their first meetup, they meet up more regularly. He sneaks out occasionally and even shows her what he was using the ink for. Because she didn't really understand why he'd want these berries, because you can't eat them. Whereas he shows them that they're using them to make ink, and even shows her how he can draw, how he's being taught how to draw all these intricate designs, even drawing her this sheet of vines that she can have. And she's amazed, oh wow, so that's what you're using these for. And the two of them become friends. However, they have a close encounter with the sealed shrine where Crom Cruach, a god of death and destruction, who destroyed Ainsley's entire family, lives. It's basically sleeping right now, but it's later revealed that the book was created using one of the eyes of this creature. A saint many years ago, like 500 years before now, when the book was first started being created, because this is back in time we had to hand draw everything, and the book is a very intricate piece of work, so it was created over centuries. And so they used a kind of glass eye that basically acts as a sort of magic magnifying glass, helping you see the tiniest details in everything you're doing, which is really valuable. However, the eye that they had, the monks had, got destroyed when the older monk fled from the destroyed monastery when the Vikings attacked. So when he realizes it's not amongst his possessions and it must have been destroyed in the attack, he basically gives into despair. But Brendan, having run into Crom Cruach's shrine, remembers the symbol and having heard the demon's name, also realizes that that glass eye he saw in the forest is the other eye that he needs to complete the book. So he resolves to get the eye. He sneaks out. Ainsley tries to warn him not to, but in the end she helps him get in, and he falls into the demon's lair. And this sequence is so beautiful. Like, he's falling into this dark void of strange runic symbols, and it's just this deep, dark sea where a giant leviathan, glowing, like, beautiful designed leviathan is deep down there, a single eye gazing up at him. And it's this race through the water as he dodges his attacks and bumps into it. And finally, he uses his own ability to draw in the inky blackness with a piece of chalk in order to literally imprison it in a drawing. Ripping off the eye, the thing madly thrashes around his traps, biting at its own body, eventually starting to consume its own tail until, as Brendan floats back to the surface, he sees through the eye that it turns into an Ouroboros, the serpent and or dragon that devours its own tail. And it's just beautiful. Like, that whole sequence just made me go, oh gosh, I gotta watch that again. So I immediately rewound that whole thing and rewatched it because it was just so gorgeous. Cartoon Saloon, even in this early stage, was showing how they could just take their style and show you things you couldn't even imagine. Oh, I love it. I just love it. Of course, Brendan returns to the Abbey, and at this point his uncle has, locked him away, but thanks to Ainsley, he was constantly escaping his room. So and there was also a beautiful sequence where she sings and the cat turns into, an ethereal form. The cat is like a sidekick to the old man who attaches itself to Brendan, and she, sings it through the door to get him out. This was before they went to go fight the demon, of course. That's also a very beautiful, very pretty scene. Great music on top of it. And then they, him and Brendan and the old man start working on the book. And as they do it, the other monks that, the kind of core group that you meet early on in the film, start, whispering to each other. First one of them was supposed to bring the food, realizes he's gone, and then realizes where he went, and sees them working, and he's just amazed at all the beautiful things they're drawing. So he tells one person, and then that person decides to go with them. And before you know it, all the major monks are huddled outside the room watching. Of course, as the book, Brendan works on this intricate drawing to be the centerpiece of the final page. Obviously things have to go sideways. A wounded villager from a nearby town rises the Abbey saying the Vikings are coming. Brendan's uncle tells him and the old man to stay locked up in this home, hoping to keep them safe, and a bit angry at them for defying him. And a bit scared for his nephew, his only connection in the world. He tells them to fortify the walls and to stay inside, but the Vikings break through the outer walls. Their, literal shield against the outside world falling apart, burning, blasted open to form a giant, beautiful animation all the way through. I know I keep saying that, but you really just have to see this movie to see it. If you're watching this on YouTube, actually, you will see a trailer for this. playing on loop because I'm going to add some video content, so you'll actually know what I'm talking about here. But that very stylized. I love the scene where the Vikings break through the door and it turns into like shards that frame their entryway. It's really cool. And of course, their preparations are all underdeveloped because no wall was ever going to be finished enough for them to be safe. The abbot tries to stay behind and get as many people to safety as possible in the tower, which is the major fortification. Unfortunately, they can't get everyone inside in time, and the stairs leading there are burned away and break. A lot of people die in that. He tries to direct the rest to hole up in the chapel, but gets wounded and stabbed in the side. He watches as they break into the workshop where he hid Brother Aiden. That was the old guy's name, Brother Aiden. And Brendan. The two of them managed to escape by basically exploding a little bit of ink. There was this thing wherever they create the green ink, there's this smoke cloud. So they use that to escape. Of course, some of the Vikings, and of course, having passed out only to wait to see the Vikings, breaking apart the building with smoke coming out of it, he thinks Brendan and Aiden are dead. And that he, has lost everything. He manages to get the last page. He had actually been holding on to the last page, and he kind of just looks at it later on in the film, like, this is my deepest regret. Obviously they didn't die, though. They managed to escape. They ran to the woods. The Vikings find them, but a group of wolves, controlled by Ainsley, attacks them. The Vikings, take the book cover off because it's all embroidered in gold and scatter the pages everywhere, though. There's this opening line where Brother Aiden was like, it's not the cover that matters, it's what's inside. And so obviously the Vikings take the message is supposed to be the Vikings in their greed take the thing that is most obviously valuable, whereas to the monks, the pages that they scattered all over the ground were far more important. So after they are saved by the wolves, the two of them start picking them up, and Aiden just sees one last page blowing away, so he goes to grab it, only to run into Ainsley in her wolf form, and she just glances at him and goes. Still a bit salty about what happened with Crom, but glad he's okay. The two of them part ways. Ainsley and Brendan head off into the forest to finish the book, create a small cabin, and work. Meanwhile, the monks, what's left of them, only one of the main monks actually survived. The others were killed in the monastery because they weren't in the protected tower. But the uncle manages to survive, the abbot. And he's like, I just want to die. I've lost everything. I've lost my old friend, who told me this wouldn't be enough. I lost my nephew, the last family I had in this world. So many people died because I wasn't prepared enough. And eventually the only surviving main monk, this really old one, tells him to get up. They still need him. The people that are left still need someone to help guide them, so he gets up and begrudgingly goes to his tasks, but it's very clear that any passion he had left, any desire to protect, is long since burned out. That it's just an empty husk, like these walls that once sheltered what feeble life he tried to guard against the raging wind. The very metaphorical, all is lost thing. Meanwhile, Aiden and Brendan go through this montage of the two of them growing older, the old man slowly approaching his death, Brendan learning from him and completing the book. They gather a few followers of like-minded who crouch over them in the night, looking at the precious kernel of knowledge that will guide future generations. Eventually, the old man dies, and he tells Brendan, before he dies though, he tells Brendan to take the book and spread it to the people so that everyone may see, so that it can shine its light of knowledge upon them. And Brendan is traveling, across the world, across Ireland, taking the book to people, letting them see it, letting them learn from it. And he's eventually guided back to the forest, to Kells. Ainsley, still there, still watching over her forest, notices him, remembers him, and reveals herself, only to run away. She guides him back to the tower, the ruined husk, the walls still broken and burned from the attack many decades ago. Over a decade ago, and it's just this, like, sad, empty place where they're still huddled in this big old tower at night. The two remaining monks still trying to watch over what few people are there. The uncle, the abbot, just tries to crowd into bed at night, wondering where it all went wrong, staring at this last page, the unfinished page that Brendan had started on so long ago, and just, like, looking at it, regretting that he didn't listen, that he didn't learn that the walls were never going to keep others out. And it's just like this beautiful moment when Brendan comes home and his father, weary and old, takes a look at the book that he had once mocked and remembers all those he lost and just cries. And that's where the story ends. It's just, I really like the message of the story. It's that hiding away from the world won't solve your problems. You can't just lock yourself in a dark room and never interact or learn from anyone. You can, leave something behind. You can't protect yourself. You can't live in a world where nothing bad happens. You have to accept the risk. And that's what the forest was. Brendan wasn't safe in the forest. He was constantly falling out of trees, or heck, he faced a literal demon and was almost devoured by it there. But in overcoming those challenges, he learned and grew into a better person. He learned to take risks. He used to be this very, like, sheltered child who constantly was repeating his uncle's mantras of the outside world's dangerous. I can't go out there. But he learned to accept that danger as a part of life. And he learned from it, and he wanted to pass on what he'd learned to future generations. And that's what the book is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent the passing of knowledge from old to young. That we should all learn from our mistakes and from our successes and pass that down. We shouldn't just lock ourselves up and stay stagnant. That's why Brother Aiden told him to go spread the book to the world. It wasn't meant to sit in a monastery. It was meant to be read. Which is, very interesting. I very much like that message. All in all, a beautiful movie. Very somber at the end, but very, like, peacefully somber, if that makes sense. I just love it. Definitely a top tier animation right here. So, yeah. All in all, I'm looking forward to Song of the Sea. If you guys like these, I might also review Breadwinners. But until next time, I will see you. Oh, as for upcoming stuff, I am looking to get another book soon. There aren't any good new things that are on Audible at the moment for me, so I'm going to be grabbing an actual physical copy of The Servant's Mage. It should be in a day or two, and I'll be reading that. I just got my PS5, so I'll be reviewing Demon's Souls, the PS5 remake. I've also about halfway finished with Pokemon Legends Arceus. I know I'm taking my time on that one. Sorry about that. Didn't have a lot of time to myself this weekend. But, all things going on, we'll have some, a book review soon, a few video game reviews, we're gonna have some movie and show reviews. Legend of Vox Machina is actually a lot of fun, so I can't wait to review that once it's done. Attack on Titan's finishing up, so all these things are coming up soon. Look for them in the future. See you guys next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.